All right, hello. So this video is to um, show you the grade on this very first essay example, which after you have read, you found out it is about extending the school day because the United States is not doing its best in education, and it's proposing to extend the school day and do some other stuff instead of focusing so much on test scores. So let me show you the grade I gave to this essay, and hopefully it will help you as an example. All right, so first the claim it's a 4, and the reason why it is a 4 is because from the very beginning, this author explained that education in the United States is not up to par, um, and right over here it already talks about extended hours, and then throughout the rest of the essay, everything supports the fact that the author believes that extending the school day will help the students more. So that's a 4 because that argument is always present and it is always being backed up by details. All right, then the evidence. The evidence is also a 4. In order to get a 4 in the evidence, okay, let me go back. You need to have 3 pieces of evidence and they have to be relevant and substantial. That's it. The explaining comes later. But for example, in here, the parentheses here are because that's a reference. Uh, so this evidence right here, countries with more school days but less instructional hours do better on test scores. That's a piece of evidence that supports, and it does so correctly. This one right here by Catherine Brown, you can look at it more in detail. Also supports the argument of the author. And then this one right here also. So the reason why you would miss these points would be if you do not make an appropriate uh, support with evidence, so if your quote is not relevant. So that's a 4. Now, it did not get a 4 in elaboration and not a 4 in conclusions drawn. And the reason for that is because in elaboration, you have to explain a little bit more of your evidence, and in conclusions drawn, you have to tell me the so what, kind of like why does your evidence and the point you're making matter. And this essay does not really do that in depth. So, like in here, it includes this piece of evidence, and then the sentences that follow, um, at least in this one, explain this piece of evidence a little more, but it does not tell me why this piece of evidence matter or why this point that they're making matter. So that is why it is not a 4, because when they're explaining the evidence, they're not explaining it more in depth and they're not connecting it to their point, to their main argument. And then for the conclusions drawn, well, after you've read through the entire essay, you don't really understand or you don't understand what is the entire purpose of writing this essay. Um, so it does explain to you that it wants the extra testing hours. It's not testing hours, school hours, but it does not tell you a little bit more about why that matters more in depth, because it goes over it very over the surface, and it should be explaining a little bit more of why having those extra hours in school matter. And if it would have explained why that matters more, um, it would have gone from a 3 to a 4. Then organization, it's a 4 because it is organized pretty well in paragraphs, and each paragraph has its own idea. So that's a 4. And then conventions, it does not really have any spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes, so it's also a 4.